It was a Thursday. I remember because Thursdays are when I stop by Publix after work to grab what we need for the weekend. Milk, eggs, bananas, the usual. My wife, Rachel, had texted me a list that morning, nothing special. But when I got home, arms full of groceries, something felt off. The house was too quiet. No music playing, no sound of the TV in the background, not even the usual clatter of her moving around in the kitchen. I called out, "Rach." No answer. I walked through the living room, dropped the bags on the counter, and that's when I saw it. Her phone. Rachel never leaves her phone unattended. I mean, I've joked about it before, told her the thing was practically sewn to her hand. But there it was, sitting on the kitchen table like a forgotten napkin. Unlocked, too. Now, I'm not the type to snoop. Never have been. But something about the way it was just sitting there, screen lit, notifications popping up like popcorn, made my gut twist. I wish I could tell you I didn't look. I wish I could say I picked it up, turned it off, and waited for her like a normal, trusting husband. But I didn't. I picked it up, and that's when I saw the messages. They weren't subtle. One from a guy named Alec, work, although I'd never heard of a coworker named Alec before. "Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you." Another. "Hope he's still clueless. Can't wait to see you again. Red heart." You know that feeling when your stomach drops and your hands go cold? That. I scrolled back through the thread. Dozens of messages. Photos. Plans. Things I won't repeat. The kind of things that made me realize this wasn't some emotional affair or harmless flirtation. This was real. This had been going on a while. I don't remember much of what I did next. I just remember standing there, staring at her phone, and hearing the garage door open. Her car pulling in. Her footsteps. I should have said something. I should have demanded an answer right then and there. But I didn't. I turned off her phone, set it back down, and greeted her like nothing was wrong. Because I needed time. Time to think. Time to process. Time to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. She walked in, kissed me on the cheek, and asked if I'd remembered the almond milk. Like nothing had happened. After that night, I started noticing things. Little things. Rachel used to hum when she cleaned the kitchen. She'd hum the same 3 songs, always out of tune, but always kind of sweet in a way I didn't fully appreciate until it stopped. Now, she cleaned in silence. She also stopped reminding me to load the dishwasher the right way, which used to drive her nuts. I was always putting the forks where the knives go, stacking bowls on the top rack like a savage. She'd come behind me, sigh like I'd personally offended her ancestors, and redo the whole thing. But now? Nothing. I'd load it wrong on purpose just to see if she'd notice. She didn't. That's when it hit me, she wasn't trying to fix anything anymore. She'd already checked out. The Rachel I knew used to care about the small stuff. Where I left my shoes. Whether I remembered to DVR her favorite shows. If I put too much sugar in her coffee. Now, she barely looked at me across the dinner table. And the weirdest part? She was nicer. Too nice. Like she was overcompensating. Being extra polite so she wouldn't feel guilty for what she was doing. "Thanks for grabbing the groceries. Dinner was really good, babe. You're such a great dad." All delivered with a gentle smile that felt like it belonged to a flight attendant, not a wife. That's when I started calling it the dishwasher test. Mess something up. Wait. See if she still cares enough to correct you. And night after night, the answer was no. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. I needed more. So I started doing some digging. I didn't have access to her phone anymore. She kept it on her at all times now, like it was made of gold and government secrets. But I checked her email, her calendar, even her location history on our shared Google account. That's when I saw it. Tuesday afternoons. Always yoga. Always from 4 to 6 p.m. Always at the same little studio across town. Except when I called the studio to ask if they had a beginner's class for men, the woman on the phone paused and said, "We don't have any classes at 4 p.m. on Tuesdays." Interesting. So the next Tuesday, I followed her. Parked across the street. Watched as she pulled up in her silver Subaru, yoga mat in the back seat, sunglasses on, dressed like every other suburban wife on her way to downward dog herself into emotional peace. Except she never walked into the studio. She walked past it. Around the corner. To an apartment building. Unit 3B. I sat there for 10 minutes, staring at that door like it might blink back at me. Then I drove home, because I wasn't ready to see what I already knew. The next morning, I asked her how yoga was. She said it was good. Sweaty, she added, laughing. That instructor really pushes us. Yeah, I bet he does. I smiled. Nodded. Then I went and unloaded the dishwasher. Wrong. On purpose. And waited to see if she'd say anything. She didn't. I don't know what finally pushed me over the edge. Maybe it was how easily she lied about yoga, or maybe it was how calm she seemed around me lately. Too calm, like I was a guest in my own house. A guest she was waiting to leave. So the next Tuesday, I didn't just follow her. I went in. I waited until she walked up the stairs and disappeared into that same apartment, Unit 3B, and then I parked my car and headed inside the building like I'd lived there my whole life. No one stopped me. No cameras. No security. Just a long hallway and that same green door. I stood there for maybe 2 minutes, not breathing. Then I knocked. At first, nothing. Just silence. I was about to walk away. I had my whole body already turned when the door opened. And there he was. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't him. He was maybe 28, tops. Tall. Blonde. The kind of guy you'd expect to see behind a smoothie bar or posting shirtless selfies from a hike. He looked confused, then vaguely annoyed. Yeah. I didn't answer. He looked over my shoulder, like maybe I was delivering food. You lost. I cleared my throat. I'm looking for Rachel. His eyebrows twitched. She's not here. Then, from somewhere inside, I heard her voice. Who is it? His jaw tightened. Just a delivery guy, he called back. I didn't say anything. We just stared at each other. Then he did something bold, or stupid, depending on how you look at it. He started to close the door. So I stepped forward and held it open with my hand. I'm her husband. His face changed. Not surprised. Not scared. Just irritated. Like I'd ruined his lunch. He sighed. Look, man. This isn't what you think. Really? I said. Because I think my wife has been sneaking off here every Tuesday afternoon for the past 2 months. That about right. He didn't answer. Behind him, I saw Rachel step into view. She wasn't wearing yoga pants. She wasn't even pretending anymore. She froze when she saw me, like I was some ghost from a past life. Aaron, she said. Quiet. Like she was trying not to wake something up. I looked at her. Then at him. Then back at her. You could have told me, I said. You could have just told me. She looked down. Like maybe the floor would save her. And I stood there, in the doorway of some stranger's apartment, watching the woman I'd loved for over a decade look at the ground instead of at me. That was the moment it stopped being about betrayal. It became grief. Like someone had died. Except they were standing right in front of me, breathing. I didn't yell. Didn't hit him. Didn't call her names. I just nodded once, slowly, and said, okay. Then I turned and left. That was the last time I ever saw Unit 3B. But it wasn't the last time I saw him. And it definitely wasn't the last time I saw the consequences. Because 3 weeks later, Rachel told me she was pregnant. And I've had a vasectomy for 5 years. I didn't say much after she told me. Just sat there at the kitchen table, my coffee going cold, while Rachel stood across from me, arms folded like she was bracing for impact. I know what you're thinking, she said quietly. But it's not that simple. I didn't respond. Because it was that simple. I hadn't touched her in months. Hadn't wanted to. Not since I found the first message. Not since Unit 3B. And it wasn't even anger anymore. It was distance. Like I was watching our marriage sink from the shore, too far gone to swim after it. So no, it wasn't mine. That wasn't even a question. She said she'd taken a test. Positive. About 5 weeks along. I did the math. And then I laughed. She looked like I slapped her. Aaron, don't. I held up my hand. Stop. Please. I don't need a speech. She nodded. Bit her lip. Didn't say anything else. I left the house for 2 days. Slept in my truck one night. At Rob's place the next. Needed space. Needed silence. And when I came back, she was gone. Her things. Half the closet. All the perfume. A couple of wedding photos missing from the wall. She left a note. Said she was sorry. Said she didn't know how it happened. Said maybe one day I'd understand. But here's the thing. I did understand. She'd fallen for someone else. Lied to me. Slept with him. Got pregnant. And now she was doing what people like her always do. Running. But just when I thought the story was done, when I was ready to move on and figure out what life looked like without her, I got the envelope. Plain manila. No return address. Inside was a letter. And 3 photos. The letter was typed. No name. Just, you don't know everything. She's not who you think. Ask about David. That's it. The photos were black and white. Looked like they were taken through a car window. In one, Rachel was hugging someone, a man, in a parking garage. In another, she was handing him a bag. And in the third, they were standing apart, arguing. It wasn't Alec. It was someone older, maybe mid-40s, balding, sharp suit. Looked like he worked in finance or politics or something high up the food chain. I didn't recognize him, but something about that scene, that garage, the angle, the tension, it didn't look like a romantic meetup. It looked like a deal, or a threat. And that name, David, stuck in my head like a thorn. I searched every inbox, every text, every photo. Nothing. But when I pulled up our home printer's history, the one in the office no one ever used but her, I found a document. A printed ticket. One-way flight. Miami to Bogota, Colombia. Passenger name? David Ingram. Printed 2 months ago. By her. And the departure date? The exact day I caught her at Unit 3B. I didn't sleep the night I found the ticket. I just sat in the office, lights off. Rachel's old mug still sitting on the desk beside me, the one that said, "World's Best Wife," in chipped blue letters. I stared at it for hours. Bogota. David Ingram. Printed by her. That ticket changed everything. See, up until that point, I thought I understood what happened. I thought it was a simple story. A woman got bored, found someone new, cheated, and ran. That's what most affairs are. But this felt layered. I spent the next morning digging. Started with that name, David Ingram. It wasn't hard to find. Turns out there's only one David Ingram who flew from Miami to Bogota on that day. He's not a boyfriend. He's a federal informant. Or was. 6 years ago, he testified against a pharmaceutical company caught laundering money through offshore accounts. Disappeared right after the trial. Witness protection. New identity. Sealed records. And suddenly, my wife had printed his name under the old identity 2 months ago. So either she had access to something she shouldn't, or she was involved in something I never imagined. I called Janet. I hadn't spoken to her in a few weeks, not since she'd told me about Alec. She had moved on fast, diving into legal prep and real estate and everything else that came with rebuilding after betrayal. She answered on the second ring. "You're not going to believe this," I said. "Oh no," she replied. "Did she come back?" "Worse," I said. "She never left." I told her everything, the envelope, the photos, the name, the plane ticket. Her silence grew colder with every detail. Then she said it. "You think Rachel's in trouble?" I hesitated. I don't know what to think. But nothing about this lines up with an affair. Janet paused, then said something that stopped me cold. "I don't think Alec was the one she was seeing at Unit 3B. That caught me off guard." "What do you mean?" "I think Alec was a cover," she said. "A decoy. Meant for people like us to follow. The guy in the apartment, he might not even be Alec. We never checked. We just assumed." I blinked, stunned. She was right. I never confirmed it. I just saw a guy, saw my wife, and assumed I had the full picture. But what if I'd only seen the part she wanted me to? Janet's theory was that Rachel was covering for someone. Maybe David. Maybe someone tied to him. And the pregnancy? Well, maybe that was real. But maybe it was another smokescreen. She suggested we dig deeper, not into Rachel, but into her past. So I did. I went to our attic and pulled out the old boxes. You know, the ones labeled college stuff, Rachel's books, old papers. I hadn't opened those in years. At the bottom of one was a shoebox filled with photos. Most were what you'd expect. Beach trips. Family cookouts. A younger Rachel in oversized sunglasses and thrift store hoodies. But tucked into the back was something odd. A photo of Rachel, maybe 22, standing with a group of people outside a hotel in D.C. In the middle of the group? David Ingram. Only back then, his name wasn't David. It was Mark Riley, public liaison for a pharmaceutical lobbying group. Rachel was standing next to him, smiling, leaning just slightly into him. I checked the date on the back. June 2011. 4 years before his testimony. 6 before he vanished. And suddenly, my wife, my sweet, stable, PTO meeting, meal prepping wife, was standing next to a man who would later bring down one of the largest corporate fraud cases in U.S. history. What did that even mean? I showed Janet the photo. She was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "Have you heard from her since she left?" "No," I said. "Well, maybe you should." And that's when I realized, for the first time since this all started, that I didn't just want answers. I needed them. Because maybe Rachel wasn't just a liar. Maybe she was running from something worse. I stared at my phone for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to say. I'd rehearsed it a dozen times in my head. But because part of me still hoped I wouldn't need to. That this would all turn out to be some misunderstanding. It wasn't. So I called. She picked up on the third ring. "Hello." Her voice was soft, guarded. I didn't say anything at first. Then, flatly, I got a letter. And some photos. We need to talk. Silence. Then, Aaron. I know about the ticket. The name. The apartment. The guy in the suit. The one you hugged in the garage. I know all of it now. Long pause. You were never just cheating, were you? More silence. Then she said, no. I exhaled through my nose. Not angry. Just tired. I asked you once if the baby was mine. I know, she whispered. And you lied. Another pause. Then a broken, yes. I closed my eyes. Who is he? The man from the garage, she said. David Ingram. Or whatever name he's using now. We were seeing each other. After he came back. You told me he was in trouble. Hiding. He was. Is. But he used me too. And I let him. And now you're pregnant with his kid. She didn't answer. I didn't need her to. You know what hurts the most? I asked. That you lied. No. That you chose him knowing who he is. What he's done. He was part of my past, Aaron. Something I thought I buried. But you didn't. She was crying now. I could hear it in her breath. I got in over my head, she said. It started with helping him find a place. Then money. Then, it turned into more. I didn't plan it. Sure you did, I said quietly. You just didn't plan to get caught. She didn't deny it. And that's when I knew. She had crossed a line, not just morally, but legally. She was hiding a fugitive. She'd lied to the feds. Lied to me. Slept with him. Got pregnant. And still had the nerve to act like she was doing it for some twisted sense of justice or closure. You're not in danger, are you? I asked finally. No, she said. Not from him. Then I guess that makes it worse. She didn't reply. I hung up. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I didn't feel confused. Or betrayed. Or even sad. I felt done. Like something inside me had finally accepted the truth. She wasn't who I thought. And I wasn't who she wanted. 3 days after the call, I got a knock at my door. It was a Sunday. Cloudy. The kind of weather that makes everything feel heavier. I'd just finished making coffee when I heard it. Not urgent. Not friendly. Just steady. I opened the door and found a man standing there. Late 40s, maybe. Black suit, no tie. Government haircut. Eyes like he'd seen 100 versions of this exact moment. He didn't smile. Mr. Carter? I nodded. He flashed a badge. Department of Justice. Real one. I could tell. My name's Agent Keller. I'd like to talk to you about your wife. Ex-wife, I corrected. That made him raise an eyebrow. Can I come in? I hesitated, then stepped aside. He didn't sit. Just stood there in the middle of my living room, looking like he belonged more in a courtroom than among mismatched furniture and a dog-eared recliner. What's this about? I asked. Rachel Carter, he said. We believe she's in contact with a federal witness who disappeared under protection 3 years ago. I almost laughed. You mean David Ingram? His expression didn't change. But I saw the flicker. Surprise. You knew. I got a letter, I said. No return address. Then she admitted it. He nodded slowly. We've been tracking her for months. Phone taps. Bank records. We suspected she was the link. But we couldn't prove it. And now we have a problem. He pulled something from his coat, a printed photo. Black and white. Rachel and David. Parking garage. Mid-embrace. Same as the one I got in the envelope. We traced this to a location in Fairfax. 2 months ago. Why are you telling me this? He paused. Because she's disappeared. I frowned. What? Gone. Phone turned off. Apartment abandoned. No credit card activity. No confirmed sightings. And you think I know where she is? He tilted his head slightly. I think you're the only person she might have trusted enough to leave a trail for. I let that sit. Then, she lied to me. Used me. Carried another man's child into my house and expected me to play along. Keller's face didn't change. Just a slight narrowing of his eyes. But you still care. That hit harder than I wanted it to. He tucked the photo back into his folder. If you hear from her, call this number, he said, handing me a card. Even if it's just a message. It might save her. I took the card, but didn't promise anything. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. One more thing, he said. What? That baby isn't just a baby. I stared at him. He shrugged. If the father really is Ingram and he's still carrying what we think he stole, there's a real chance she's running with something a lot of dangerous people want. He nodded once, then left. And I stood there, holding a cup of coffee and a card with a number on it, thinking one quiet, Steady thought. She didn't just break my heart. She walked out with something that might get her killed. I didn't sleep that night. Again, I sat at the kitchen table, same spot where Rachel once told me she was pregnant, where she lied to my face and expected me to smile through it. The DOJ card lay next to my mug, untouched. I hadn't decided whether to call yet. What if I gave them something, and they used it to bury her? What if I didn't, and she got buried anyway? I was angry, sure, but not stupid. There's a difference. So I started looking for what she left behind. Not out of hope, out of instinct. If she'd left a trail, even a faint one, I'd find it. The first clue was in her laptop. It was still in the hall closet, zipped up in her old gray tote bag, the one with the broken strap and faded stain from a spilled coffee. I'd seen it 1,000 times. Never touched it. Until now. She'd changed the password. But Rachel was nothing if not predictable. I guessed our daughter's birthday on the 3rd try. Inside, everything looked normal. Emails, grocery lists, a half-written resume. But then I noticed something weird. A folder labeled Taxes 2017. Rachel hates doing taxes. She would never voluntarily revisit a return from 5 years ago. I opened it. Inside, nothing to do with taxes. Just 6 PDF files. All password protected. I opened one and stared at the prompt. I tried our anniversary. Her birthday. Nothing. Then I typed, Fairfax. It opened. Inside, a scanned document. A manifest. Passenger list from a private charter flight, Miami to Medellin. A familiar name stood out. Mark Riley, David's original identity. Then I understood. These weren't old files. They were current. New. Hidden in plain sight under the name of something no one would ever click. I opened the next file. A photo. Blurry. But I recognized her. Rachel. Sitting in what looked like a hospital waiting room. Holding her stomach. Dated just 2 weeks ago. I felt my throat tighten. She didn't look scared. She looked focused. Like someone with a plan. Next file. A voice memo. Just 5 seconds long. Her voice. Whispering. If you're hearing this, I couldn't say goodbye. Then a soft breath. A rustle of movement. Find the blue envelope. That's it. I paused. Looked around the house like something might light up and blink at me. The blue envelope? I stood, moved through every room. Checked under drawers, inside cupboards, behind bookshelves. Nothing. Then I remembered her old sewing box, the one she kept under the guest bed, buried beneath holiday linens and broken ornaments. I pulled it out. Tucked under the lining, right where the lid creaked, a blue envelope. Fat and sealed. No name. I opened it. Inside, a USB drive. And a note. Handwritten. Aaron. If you're reading this, it means things got worse faster than I expected. I made mistakes. Too many. I lied. To you, to them, to myself. David is not who I thought he was. Neither am I. Please take this to Keller. He'll know what to do. And Aaron. I'm sorry. Not just for the lies. For everything I took from you. You didn't deserve any of this. Tell our daughter the truth. All of it. She'll hate me less if it comes from you. I read the note 3 times. Then I looked at the drive. Small. Silver. Like any other. But I had a feeling what was on it could ruin people. Or protect them. Maybe both. The flash drive sat on the kitchen table for a full hour before I touched it. Funny how something so small can feel radioactive. Eventually, I plugged it into Rachel's old laptop. The screen blinked once, then a folder popped open. No password this time. Just one file. Play me. Yeah. Subtle. I clicked. A video opened. It was grainy. Filmed on some kind of security cam, maybe a dashboard recorder. A date in the corner, October 3rd, about 2 weeks before Rachel disappeared. The video showed a man sitting at a cafe. Outdoor table. Late afternoon sun. I recognized him immediately. David Ingram. He looked tense. Kept glancing over his shoulder. Checking his phone. Waiting. After about 30 seconds, another man approached. He was older. Heavy-set. Wore a dark overcoat and carried himself like someone who had people under him. The way dogs walk past cats, full of entitlement. He sat down across from David. No handshake. No small talk. Just words. Quiet and fast. There was no audio, but the body language said everything. David reached into his coat. Pulled out something small, looked like a memory card. Slid it across the table. The other man picked it up. Looked at it. Then shook his head. David said something. The other guy leaned forward. Angry now. David said more. Gesturing, trying to explain. The man stood. David stood, too. The other man leaned in, said something final, harsh, whatever it was, then turned and walked off. David watched him go, then looked straight into the camera. Not by accident. He knew it was there. Then the video cut out. Another file auto-opened, a PDF this time. A document with a DOJ seal on top. Not a real one. Looked like a draft or stolen copy. It was a list. Over 20 names. Politicians. CEOs. Judges. Next to each name, wire transfers. Dates. Offshore accounts. Bribes. I scrolled. Near the bottom, 2 names were underlined. One of them was the man from the cafe. The other? Agent Keller. I froze. Sat back, heart pounding in my chest. That name. The one who showed up at my house, who gave me the card, who told me to call if I heard from her. He was in on it. Rachel knew. She'd been playing a longer game than I realized. She hadn't run because she was scared of David. She ran because she was scared of everyone else. That's when it all clicked. The letter. The envelope. The note. Take this to Keller. He'll know what to do. It wasn't a message. It was a test. She wanted to see if I'd trust the wrong man. If I'd hand the evidence to the one person who'd bury it. And bury her. But she'd counted on me hesitating. And I had. Long enough to see the truth. I looked at the folder one last time. Then I ejected the drive and slid it back into the envelope. She'd left me with a choice. I could stay out of it. Or I could do what she couldn't. Blow it open. I sat in my truck outside the DOJ field office for almost an hour before I moved. The USB drive was in my coat pocket. The blue envelope in the passenger seat. Her handwriting. Tell our daughter the truth. Burned into my brain. I didn't feel like a hero. I didn't even feel like a husband anymore. I felt like the last guy left in a game I didn't sign up for, holding pieces of someone else's war. But I walked in anyway. The receptionist didn't blink when I said I needed to speak to someone. She just asked for my ID, scanned it, and told me to wait. 10 minutes later, a new agent came out. Young. Alert. He wore a badge that said Marquez and eyes that still had faith in what he was doing. I've got something you'll want to see, I told him. We sat in a small, gray conference room. I placed the flash drive on the table like it was made of glass. I didn't say much, just explained that it had been left for me, that I believed Agent Keller was compromised, and that this might be evidence. He asked questions, took notes, didn't rush. When I said the name, David Ingram, something in his posture changed. Not panic, but attention. Then I told him the last part, that Rachel was pregnant, that she was missing, that she had run because she didn't know who else to trust. That part seemed to hit him hardest. Do you know where she is? He asked. No. Would you tell me if you did? I looked him in the eye. I'd tell you, I said. He nodded, like he understood what I meant. And maybe he did. The official report came out 2 weeks later. A quiet DOJ memo. Internal only. Keller had resigned before charges were filed. Disappeared. Probably out of the country by now. The other man, the one from the cafe, turned out to be a former senator. Dead of a heart attack in his Maryland home 3 days after the memo leaked. No one said it out loud, but everyone knew. The system protected its own, right up until it didn't. The USB contents were under review, which is code for, this goes deep. As for Rachel, I didn't hear from her for a long time. Until last Thursday. An envelope arrived. No return address. Just my name. Inside, a letter. Aaron, I'm alive. I'm safe. That's all I can say. I can't tell you where I am. But I want you to know, the baby is real. I'm keeping her. Not because of David. Not because I expect anything. But because I need something in my life that's still mine. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I won't ask for it. But thank you. For not handing me over. For trusting your gut. For not giving up on the truth, even when you had every reason to. Tell our daughter I love her. Tell her I'm sorry. And tell her, sometimes being a mother means disappearing so your child doesn't have to. There was no signature. Just a smear of ink at the bottom, like maybe she'd started to sign and changed her mind. I sat with that letter for a long time. Then I made 2 copies. One for the safe. One for our daughter, when she's old enough. I don't know what she'll think. Don't know if she'll want to understand. But she'll know the truth. Or at least something close to it.